Never blame the egg before you blame the fire beneath it. Because for millions of seniors, breakfast looks harmless. 2 eggs in a pan, a drizzle of oil, a familiar sizzle. But what if I told you that the way those eggs are prepared could quietly determine whether they protect your heart or slowly damage it? Eggs are not the villain of your story. In fact, they are one of the most nutrient-dense foods ever studied. A single egg contains complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids, choline for brain health, lutein and zeaxanthin for vision, vitamin B12 for nerve function, and nutrients that aging bodies struggle to absorb elsewhere. For adults over 60, whose muscle mass declines by up to 1% every year after midlife, high-quality protein is not optional. It is survival. But here is the uncomfortable truth. When you cook a healthy food the wrong way, chemistry changes. And chemistry determines whether your breakfast becomes medicine or metabolic stress. Let's start with the most common mistake: frying eggs in processed vegetable oils. Soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, generic vegetable oil. These oils are rich in polyunsaturated omega-6 fatty acids. On paper, that sounds harmless, but when exposed to high heat, especially in a frying pan, these oils oxidize rapidly. Oxidation creates reactive aldehydes, toxic compounds that damage cells and blood vessels. Studies published in food chemistry and cardiovascular research journals have shown that repeatedly heated vegetable oils generate lipid peroxides linked to inflammation and arterial plaque formation. Inflammation is not just a buzzword, it is the biological fire that accelerates aging. Chronic inflammation contributes to heart disease, stroke, diabetes, arthritis, even cognitive decline. And seniors are already more vulnerable to inflammatory damage because natural antioxidant defenses decline with age. So when you fry eggs at high heat in unstable oils, you are not just cooking, you are creating oxidative stress, a process that stiffens arteries and burdens the heart. The egg did not change, the oil did. Now consider what happens when heat climbs even higher. Overcooking eggs until the edges brown and crisp may taste satisfying, but extreme heat alters cholesterol structure. Research shows that oxidized cholesterol, which forms during high temperature cooking, is significantly more atherogenic than natural dietary cholesterol. In simple terms, oxidized cholesterol is more likely to stick to artery walls and contribute to plaque buildup. For decades, people feared the cholesterol in egg yolks. Yet large meta-analyses have found that moderate egg consumption, about 1 egg per day, does not increase cardiovascular risk in healthy individuals. The fear was misplaced. The real issue was not the cholesterol itself, but how cooking methods could chemically transform it. When you see dark brown, crispy egg edges, you are witnessing nutrient destruction. Heat-sensitive compounds like choline begin to degrade. B vitamins break down. Delicate antioxidants are reduced. What was once a protective food becomes nutritionally diminished. Gentle cooking preserves life. Aggressive heat strips it away. But there is another layer most people overlook. Many seniors pair eggs with processed meats cooked in the same pan. Bacon, sausage, ham. When processed meats are cooked at high temperatures, they produce advanced glycation end products and nitrosamines, compounds associated with oxidative stress and endothelial dysfunction. The World Health Organization classifies processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen due to strong evidence linking it to colorectal cancer. Now imagine this combination: oxidized oil, overcooked eggs, processed meats, high heat. This is not a heart-protective breakfast. This is a vascular assault. And for adults over 60, vascular health is everything. Erectile dysfunction, memory loss, fatigue, reduced stamina. These are often not isolated problems. They are symptoms of impaired blood flow. The same delicate endothelial lining that keeps your heart beating smoothly supplies oxygen to your brain and every other organ. Damage it daily, even subtly, and consequences accumulate. But here's the twist that changes everything. Eggs themselves can actually support vascular health when prepared correctly. Eggs provide arginine, an amino acid involved in nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide relaxes blood vessels, improving circulation. Eggs contain phospholipids that support cell membrane integrity. The yolk delivers fat-soluble nutrients that help absorb antioxidants from vegetables. The egg is neutral. even beneficial. The method decides the outcome. When you switch from processed vegetable oils to extra virgin olive oil, you introduce polyphenols, natural antioxidants shown to reduce inflammation and support heart health. When you cook on low to moderate heat instead of blasting the pan, you limit cholesterol oxidation. When you soft scramble instead of over frying, you preserve delicate nutrients. These are not cosmetic changes. They are biochemical interventions. Research consistently shows that dietary patterns emphasizing whole foods, healthy fats, and gentle cooking methods are associated with lower cardiovascular mortality. The Mediterranean diet, rich in olive oil, vegetables, and moderate egg intake, is linked to improved longevity and reduced stroke risk. Notice what that diet avoids: highly processed oils and excessive high heat cooking. The problem was never the egg. It was the industrialization of how we cook it. In many households, convenience replaced caution. High heat cooks faster, processed oils are cheaper, crispy textures are more familiar, but speed has a cost, and that cost compounds over years. If you are over 60, your arteries have already carried you through decades of life. They deserve protection now more than ever. Endothelial cells, the thin lining of your blood vessels, become more sensitive with age. Oxidative stress damages them more easily. Recovery takes longer. What your body once tolerated in your 30s may not be harmless in your 70s. The most dangerous part: damage does not announce itself. There is no alarm when oxidized lipids accumulate, no immediate pain when inflammation rises, no flashing warning when arterial stiffness increases. The consequences appear later, during a stress test, a hospital visit, a sudden loss of stamina. Breakfast feels small, but repeated daily choices shape long-term outcomes. Imagine transforming that same meal. You heat a pan gently. You add a small drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. You crack 2 eggs and cook them softly just until set. You add spinach rich in nitrates that support nitric oxide production. You sprinkle turmeric, shown in studies to have anti-inflammatory properties. You avoid processed meats and instead pair your eggs with fiber-rich vegetables. Same eggs, different future. Science does not demand perfection, it demands awareness. Moderate egg consumption prepared with stable fats and gentle heat fits within heart-healthy dietary patterns supported by decades of research. What increases risk is the inflammatory environment created by poor cooking choices and processed companions. The difference between nourishment and damage can be as simple as lowering the flame. So tomorrow morning, when you hear that familiar sizzle, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this pan building strength or building stress? Is this oil supporting my arteries or silently inflaming them? Am I preserving nutrients or destroying them? Eggs can help protect muscle mass, support brain function, and provide affordable, accessible nutrition for aging bodies. But only if you respect the chemistry. Because food is not just calories, it is information. It sends signals to your cells. It tells your arteries whether to relax or stiffen. It tells your immune system whether to calm down or stay on alert. And sometimes the most dangerous part of a meal is not what you eat. It is how you cook it. For decades, you were told to fear the yolk. You were told that the golden center of the egg was dangerous, that it would clog your arteries, spike your cholesterol, and quietly sabotage your heart. So millions of seniors began scraping it away. White omelets, egg white scrambles, yolk discarded into the trash like nutritional waste. But what if the part you've been throwing away is the very part your aging brain and body desperately need? The egg yolk is not a threat. It is a biological treasure chest. Inside that small golden center lies choline, a nutrient so critical to brain function that the National Academy of Medicine classifies it as essential. Yet research shows that more than 90% of adults fail to meet the recommended daily intake, and seniors are at even greater risk of deficiency. Choline is the raw material your body uses to produce acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter responsible for memory, learning, and muscle control. Without adequate choline, cognitive performance can decline. Low choline intake has been associated with increased risk of fatty liver disease and impaired brain function. In one controlled study, participants deprived of dietary choline developed liver dysfunction and muscle damage within weeks. When choline was reintroduced, the damage reversed. That is how powerful this nutrient is. And one of the richest, most bioavailable sources of choline on Earth is the egg yolk. When you remove it, you remove the very compound that supports your memory pathways. But that is only the beginning. As we age, our eyes quietly deteriorate. Macular degeneration is one of the leading causes of vision loss in adults over 60. It steals clarity slowly, first dimming contrast, then blurring detail, until reading becomes difficult and faces lose definition. The egg yolk contains lutein and zeaxanthin, two carotenoid antioxidants that accumulate in the retina. These compounds act like internal sunglasses, filtering harmful blue light and neutralizing oxidative stress inside delicate eye tissue. Clinical studies have shown that increasing dietary lutein and zeaxanthin improves macular pigment density, a protective factor against age-related vision decline. And the form found in egg yolks is highly bioavailable because it is delivered in a natural fat matrix that enhances absorption. Throw away the yolk, and you discard a natural defense system for your eyes. But what about cholesterol? For years, dietary cholesterol was blamed for heart disease. Eggs became a symbol of danger. Yet modern research tells a more complex story. Large-scale meta-analyses involving hundreds of thousands of participants have found no significant association between moderate egg consumption and cardiovascular disease in healthy individuals. The human body tightly regulates blood cholesterol levels. When dietary cholesterol increases, the liver often compensates by producing less. In fact, for many people, saturated fats and refined carbohydrates have a far greater impact on harmful LDL particle formation than dietary cholesterol itself. The yolk contains cholesterol, yes, but cholesterol is not poison. It is a structural molecule essential for life. Every cell membrane in your body relies on cholesterol for integrity and flexibility. Your brain, and which is nearly 60% fat, depends on cholesterol for proper function. Cholesterol is also the precursor for steroid hormones, including testosterone and estrogen. As hormone levels decline with age, providing the body with the raw materials it needs becomes increasingly important. The fear was oversimplified. The science is nuanced, and nuance matters. Inside the yolk, you also find vitamin B12, critical for nerve health and red blood cell formation. Deficiency in B12 becomes more common with age due to reduced stomach acid and impaired absorption. Low B12 levels are linked to fatigue, neuropathy, balance problems, and even cognitive impairment. The yolk provides B vitamins in a form the body recognizes. It delivers vitamin D, a nutrient essential for immune regulation, bone strength, and mood stability. Vitamin D deficiency affects a large portion of older adults worldwide, increasing risk of fractures and weakening immune defenses. It provides selenium, an antioxidant mineral that supports thyroid function and protects against oxidative stress. It contains healthy phospholipids that help build and repair cell membranes. This is not empty fat. This is concentrated biology. Yet fear convinced many to remove it. Let's talk about muscle. After age 60, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, accelerates dramatically. Loss of muscle mass is not cosmetic. It increases fall risk, fractures, loss of independence, even mortality. Protein intake becomes critical. Whole eggs stimulate muscle protein synthesis more effectively than egg whites alone. Why? Because the yolk contains additional nutrients and fats that enhance the anabolic response. Research comparing whole eggs to egg whites after resistance exercise showed greater muscle building signaling when the yolk was included. The yolk amplifies the benefit. It completes the package. When seniors eat only egg whites, they consume protein, but miss the synergistic nutrients that optimize how that protein is used. And then there is the liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease affects a growing number of older adults. Choline deficiency is a recognized contributor to fat accumulation in the liver. Without enough choline, the liver struggles to export fat properly. Over time, this can progress to inflammation and scarring. Egg yolks provide one of the most efficient dietary sources of choline available. Removing them may unintentionally increase vulnerability, but balance remains essential. No food exists in isolation. Eggs should be part of a diet rich in vegetables, fiber, healthy fats, and whole foods. For individuals with specific medical conditions, such as diabetes or established cardiovascular disease, dietary choices should be personalized in consultation with a healthcare professional. The message is not excess. The message is restoration. For too long, seniors have been told to fear a food that evolution packaged perfectly. The egg contains everything needed to build life. It was designed with balance, protein in the white, micronutrients in the yolk, fats to carry them into your cells. Nature does not waste, and neither should you. Imagine your breakfast tomorrow. Instead of separating and discarding, you gently cook the whole egg. You preserve its integrity. You pair it with leafy greens and colorful vegetables. You nourish your brain, your eyes, your muscles, your liver, all in one simple meal. The yolk is not reckless indulgence. It is intelligent nutrition. Aging does not mean shrinking your plate out of fear. It means choosing foods that protect cognition, preserve strength, and maintain independence. Every time you throw away the yolk, you throw away choline your brain could use, antioxidants your eyes crave, vitamins your nerves depend on. Every time you keep it, you reclaim a small but powerful advantage. Science evolves, guidelines change, but biology remains constant. Your cells need nutrients, not fear. And sometimes the most powerful act of health is unlearning what you were told and rediscovering the golden center you were meant to keep. An egg by itself is powerful, but an egg by itself is incomplete because no matter how nutrient-dense a food may be, isolation is not how the human body thrives. Biology is built on balance. Systems talk to each other, nutrients interact, microbes respond, hormones adjust. And when you ignore that balance, even with a healthy food, the consequences can quietly build beneath the surface. Eggs contain zero fiber. Zero. And for seniors, that single fact changes everything. After the age of 60, the gut microbiome begins to shift. Beneficial bacterial diversity often declines. The intestinal barrier can become more fragile. Inflammation becomes easier to trigger and harder to calm. Research in gerontology shows that reduced microbial diversity is associated with frailty, metabolic dysfunction, and even cognitive decline. Fiber is not just about preventing constipation. Fiber is fuel for your microbiome. When you eat vegetables, berries, legumes, whole grains, flax seeds, or chia seeds, the fiber travels to your colon where trillions of bacteria ferment it into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate reduces inflammation, strengthens the gut lining, improves insulin sensitivity, and even influences gene expression linked to longevity. Without fiber, those beneficial bacteria starve. When seniors eat a protein-heavy breakfast of eggs alone, especially daily, without adding plant-based fiber, the microbial balance can shift unfavorably. Certain gut bacteria metabolize nutrients from animal products into compounds like trimethylamine, which the liver converts into TMAO, trimethylamine N-oxide. Elevated TMAO levels have been associated in multiple studies with increased cardiovascular risk. Now let's be clear, eggs themselves are not toxic. Moderate egg consumption in the context of a balanced diet does not automatically raise TMAO to dangerous levels. But when fiber intake is low and overall diet quality declines, the gut environment changes and risk compounds. Balance is the difference between nourishment and stress. Consider this. Fewer than 10% of older adults meet the recommended daily fiber intake. Most consume less than half of what their gut bacteria require to maintain optimal function. So when breakfast is eggs alone, no spinach, no tomatoes, no avocado, no berries, no whole grains, the body receives protein, yes. But the microbiome receives nothing. And when the microbiome suffers, the entire body feels it. Your immune system is deeply connected to your gut. Nearly 70% of immune cells reside along the intestinal lining. Chronic low-fiber intake has been associated with increased systemic inflammation, the same inflammation that drives heart disease, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, and neurodegenerative disorders. Inflammation does not erupt overnight. It whispers, it builds, it accumulates in silence. Now imagine a different plate. You prepare 2 gently cooked eggs, but beside them, you add sautéed spinach rich in nitrates that support nitric oxide production and vascular relaxation. You add sliced tomatoes containing lycopene, an antioxidant linked to reduced cardiovascular risk. You sprinkle ground flaxseed, a source of soluble fiber and lignans associated with improved cholesterol balance. You include a small bowl of berries packed with polyphenols that feed beneficial gut bacteria. Suddenly, the egg is no longer alone. It becomes part of a symphony. Fiber slows glucose absorption, stabilizing blood sugar. Stable blood sugar protects blood vessels. It protects the brain. It reduces insulin spikes that accelerate fat storage and metabolic strain. Seniors are particularly vulnerable to blood sugar fluctuations. Insulin sensitivity declines with age. A protein-only breakfast may seem safe, but without fiber to moderate digestion, metabolic balance can still drift over time. Balance protects. Synergy amplifies. Studies of dietary patterns, not isolated foods, consistently show that longevity is highest in populations that combine moderate animal protein with abundant plant-based fiber. The Mediterranean dietary pattern, rich in vegetables, legumes, olive oil, nuts, and moderate egg intake, is associated with lower rates of cardiovascular disease and longer lifespan. Notice the pattern. It is not extreme. It is integrated. Your gut bacteria influence more than digestion. They produce neurotransmitters. They interact with the vagus nerve. They influence mood and cognition. Emerging research links gut health to reduced risk of depression and improved cognitive resilience. When fiber intake increases, beneficial bacteria flourish. When beneficial bacteria flourish, inflammatory markers decline. When inflammation declines, vascular function improves. And when vascular function improves, every organ, including those responsible for stamina and performance, benefits. There is no magic ingredient. There is only metabolic harmony. An egg without fiber is like a spark without oxygen. Useful, but limited. Add fiber, and you ignite a broader cascade of protective processes. And let's not forget muscle. Protein stimulates muscle protein synthesis, but chronic inflammation blunts that response. If the gut environment is inflamed, the body becomes less efficient at building and preserving lean tissue. Fiber indirectly supports muscle maintenance by reducing inflammatory interference. Strength is not built by protein alone, it is preserved by internal balance. Now consider the psychological shift. For years, nutrition advice focused on restriction. Remove fat, remove yolk, remove flavor. But health is not built on subtraction alone. It is built on intelligent addition. Add greens, add color, add texture, add diversity. Every additional plant food introduces new phytonutrients, compounds that interact with human biology in ways we are still discovering. Thousands of bioactive molecules in vegetables and fruits influence detoxification pathways, antioxidant defenses, and cellular signaling. Eggs provide foundation. Plants provide protection. Together, they form resilience. And resilience is what aging bodies need most. As decades pass, cumulative oxidative stress leaves marks. DNA repair slows, mitochondria become less efficient, immune response becomes dysregulated, but diet remains one of the few daily levers within your control. Each balanced breakfast becomes a vote for vascular flexibility, for microbial diversity, for cognitive clarity, for sustained strength. Ignore balance and the system strains. Embrace balance and the system adapts. You do not need exotic superfoods. You do not need expensive supplements. You need integration. 2 eggs, a handful of greens, a source of fiber, a drizzle of olive oil, a portion of berries or whole grains. Simple choices, profound biochemical impact. The difference between fragility and vitality is rarely dramatic. It is cumulative. It is built from ordinary mornings repeated consistently. When you sit down tomorrow, look at your plate and ask one question. Does this meal feed only me? Or does it also feed the trillions of organisms that protect me? Because inside you is an ecosystem. And that ecosystem determines far more than you realize. Eggs are powerful, but balance is transformative. And longevity is not created by one food alone. It is created when nutrients work together, quietly, consistently, every single day, building a body that remains strong, clear, and resilient long after others begin to decline.